Welcome back to the Rocky Mountain Vet Podcast. I'm Andrew Duffer, and today we're joined by Theresa Strader, founder of National Mail Dog Rescue, who many Rocky Mountain Vet fans will remember from the TV show with Jeff. In this episode, we're talking about the hidden world behind the puppies people buy online and in pet stores. Most people see the cute puppy in the window or the adorable photo on a website, but what they don't see are the breeding dogs living in cages for years, the medical neglect, the rotten teeth, the behavioral damage, the untreated disease, and the dogs that are discarded as soon as they stop making money. This is a hard conversation, but I think it's an important one, so let's get into it.
Jeff, what does your shirt say?
Pro-America, but
Thank goodness.
Okay, because I was about to say your shirt is giving MAGA patriot.
we can. I'll just pull this up with it. Yeah,
Let's go with that.
yeah.
Going to war so he doesn't
Now,
have to be held accountable.
My wife actually made a point. She said, she says, I always love the fact that Americans filled out flags outside and would have on their cars. She always thought that was the greatest thing. And then she says, then I realized it's the Republicans have ambushed that, have taken it over, and it has a real negative mean to her now as an immigrant. And she said, we should take that back. And I said, you're right. So look, American flags, fuck them guys.
No kidding.
They are.
Yeah, no kidding.
I feel the same way. When I see someone flying an American flag, I don't feel like it's a safe space.
No, you make the assumption that they're assholes, and we got to take that back from them. That's my theory.
No
it's like
joke.
So
yeah.
Well, just like how the gays stole the rainbow from God. That's what conservatives say.
Well, if you find that pot of gold, let me know, because
we collectively got together and stole the rainbow from God. Okay, so we're gonna talk about backyard breeding and puppy meals.
Well, Theresa's the expert on puppy mills, and her life's work, I think, is worth mentioning for sure. I mean, what she's done, and I'll be honest, I was, when I first met Theresa, and I think I told you this, I wasn't sure. It's like a catch-22, because you're basically, you go to places where they're kind of closing down for the most part, but sometimes you rescue animals that breeders keep on breeding. And, you can make the argument that you're enabling them, but at the same time, we're talking live creatures here that are going to be destroyed otherwise or live horrible, miserable.
I answer that question so often.
Yeah.
Aren't you helping them when you take these dogs? And it's like, well, what I'm there to help is that dog in that cage. Right. And if I don't do that, that dog in that cage dies the way all the ones came before him, in a drown in a bucket, shot in the head, killed by a vet, whoever, just unnecessarily. And so, that is the trade-off. And but the other part of that is I'm also not in charge of these people. You know what I mean? It's not my life. I can't tell them that you're not allowed to put a dog back in that cage once I take the one that's there. So what we do what we can for the animals right in front of our face. If a human, is somehow helped in some way, you don't have to shoot him, you don't have to pay to have him euthanized, I'm okay with that. I'd rather the dog be alive and we give him a chance to move forward in life. So
I would too. I mean, I can see how that is like a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
You want to help the animal didn't do anything, but then I guess in a way, it does encourage them because they know that they have you to fall back on.
Well, the interesting thing is, for years and years and years, these dogs, when they could no longer produce at 6 to 8 or 10 years old, they're just killed. And that's the way it is. There was no other option. So the fact that we represent another option has basically changed the way they think. Like there is another option. Did I always love killing all these dogs? Probably not, but this is the way it works. So, we present another option. Again, if somebody is helped, if a human is helped in that, and somebody that we don't even necessarily agree with what they do, there's still the life of the dog in the middle of that equation. So
it's an outlet, and the reality is these animals have suffered horribly. So the mere fact that they can have a few happy years after that. I mean, some of these dogs don't touch ground for the first time. Been in grass. I mean, it's just it's unconscionable the way they're raised, and the mere fact that you're giving them a second chance is a real positive thing. And once again, I have less concerns with death than I do with suffering. I think
Right.
suffering's far worse than death. But having said that, the thing about animals that are suffering is that, as we well know in America, people want those kind of animals. We really do want that to help the problem animal. I mean, and that's what so many of the big groups advertise. I mean, that's they want to pull on the heartstrings. Teresa's not doing major national advertising, but the point is, she has a hell of a network, and we find people that really will care for those dogs in the last years of life and make them very happy. And to me, that's a real positive thing.
Is there, like, I feel like there's a lot of cognitive dissonance here. Like, do these people show remorse or feel ashamed when they have to reach out to you that they continue to create these situations where they need meal dog rescue? Or is it just, and it got another one for you?
It's a really, it's been an interesting near 20 years. We just had our 19th anniversary a couple weeks ago. Um, Far more a lesson in human behavior and sort of humanity in general than anything I've learned about dogs. I mean, obviously I've learned about how they live within this industry, and it's horrible. That's why we do this work. I mean, they're caged and confined their entire lives, um, to make money for somebody and to produce, little baby pets for America. But I think we can do a far, far better job. Go back to what you started that with. My head went in another place, Andy. Sorry. Just that.
Oh, I'm just the cognitive dissonance. It's if you're creating this horrible situation to the point where you need someone else's help, when they reach out to you, is it just this nonchalant, "Oh,
Yeah,
hey, we
it's
we fucked up again, help us."
it isn't
It's
even
not.
really nonchalant. So there are situations where we work with the authorities and the place is being shut down. We did a big one.
Yeah.
We did 2 of those last year here in Colorado, which is a little bit unusual, but 60 some wiener dogs, dachshunds, and then 165 schnauzers in the worst condition you've ever seen in your
Yeah.
entire life. That woman was actually just sentenced, and she took a stiff sentence for animal cruelty for the
Good.
precedent that has been set. To me, she should be in prison for the rest of her life for the suffering she put upon all those dogs. But regardless, she had a pretty stiff sentence. So, it's when they come to us through state and different agencies, usually departments of agriculture, sometimes law enforcement, or both. I mean, these animals are usually in really, really dire situations. When they're going to shut a place down, it's bad. There's dead animals on the property, or, sickness everywhere and things like that. Generally, the more common way in which we get dogs is breeders that learned about the fact that we exist. And for all the years, they've always just euthanized their dogs because we didn't exist or they didn't know about us. And these are the dogs that are going to retire. They don't all retire at once. Some places have 200, 300, 400 dogs. So they're all different ages and different parts of breeding life. But when certain ones hit either a certain age or, oops, made a really unprofitable litter like 0 puppies or 1, then that's time to retire. And that's usually somewhere around 6 to 8 years old for most breeds. So then they just start building their list. And I get that list. I get those lists every day. I'm dealing with probably 5 breeders right now. When those lists come in, I put them all onto a master schedule, and I know who I could literally say, look, I can't get to you for 3 months, 4 months. Those dogs are completely safe. And then there's other people I know I need to get to those dogs within the next 2 to 4 weeks, or those dogs are going to be euthanized in whichever horrible form, which, in my opinion, even a veterinarian's hand, is a horrible form of euthanasia for an animal who truly doesn't need it for any reason except I can't make puppies anymore. So, yeah, there's a big time cognitive dissonance in not so much in what they do with me, but in how this industry came to be what it is. Now it's more like the unraveling and learning how to treat these animals that they do deserve. A lot of them think nobody's gonna want these dogs live in the cage in the building behind my house for years. They're not pets. Yeah, they are.
Yep.
They just take a little bit of time. They're pets. We just surpassed 26,000 dogs that we've rescued since this began in 2007. They are
That's a
pets.
lot.
Every single one of those dogs, with very, very few exceptions, ones that were beyond medical things we could fix, ones that were beyond behavioral things that we could fix. Everybody gets all the chances in the world for that from us. We don't just go, oh, you have some horrible thing, you're dead. No, we're going to do everything we can to try to fix it. And if we can't, that's literally into 26,000 dogs. From behavioral and medical standpoint, I bet we haven't lost 100 dogs.
That's impressive.
It's
So
impressive.
these animals are wanted. They will heal. They can recuperate. That is a horrible life. There's no question. And it depends where they come from. Some breeders do put their hands on their dogs and do take better care of them. I have a lady in Kansas. She doesn't have to do this, not part of her license or anything. She has turnout yards so that her mother dogs can get outside and run around and get away from their babies 2 or 3 times a day. She just does lots of extra things for her dogs, and she has about 100 dogs. But she just does a lot of extra things because she cares, and her husband, they're just in it that way. Then there's people who they just are pure commodity. This is just in the back barn. This is how we make our money. But they're also willing to give us their dogs.
I think it's interesting that in shelters here in Colorado with Packville, they're the ones that oversees everything. You're supposed to have things to enhance, like how do you enhance the cat's life? I mean, in this category, we had Packville come out and start looking at it and they go, well, are you going to play music for them? And, so as a shelter, as a humane organization, you have all these requirements.
Yeah.
But if you want to be a backyard breeder, there's virtually no requirements. There's no enhancement. No one forces. It's crazy.
Where do you see the biggest change in the industry? Is it legislation? Is it accountability or consumer awareness? Like,
it's
where do you think the change is?
To me, it's touch point directly with these people. You accountability. You're only accountable if you start to care about what you're doing. I think you only can feel that sense of accountability if you care about what you're doing. And it's not to say all these people I've worked with over all these years don't care. It's the way the industry has always been. And so they just come in and follow grandma and mom and whoever. And this is, if you grow up from childhood and you're looking at the side of a building with, all these cages and 120 dogs stuffed in there, and you've just seen that since the day you're starting to toddle around the farm, it doesn't feel weird to you at all, and that was really hard for me to learn early on. It was like, and then you realize, wait a minute, these people and me, we all have different life experiences. I did not grow up in a very rural part where my family did something like that, or I might think that's normal. It's getting to them, particularly right now. I'm working with younger breeders. This is really interesting. There are things, and I say it to them all the time, how grateful I am that you would never say or do to or about your dog what your parents or even your grandparents did. They just are much softer about that. They do not speak about them like they're, a pair of shoes or just some crap in the back. I mean, they really do care. And they get really nervous in the beginning, the younger ones working with me, because, I've seen all of it. And, but I've never done anything. What I learned early on was, if I'm going to do this the way I want to, which, yes, legislation is a huge piece of it, but it's just really slow moving, extremely slow moving. So while that incredible slow moving thing is going on, animals are dying. Animals are dying. Huh?
You have to have their trust.
Yeah, I mean, and it is about trust. And what has to come in a trusting relationship more than anything is honesty. It just does. You can't, if you start bullshitting and if you start, not being honest with each other, then there will never be trust. And so when you build that trusting relationship, they listen to you more. They hear. Plus, I'm not saying, look, this is some stupid thing you're doing here. I say, look, if you do this, it's so much easier on the dog. Here's why, and just try to teach them a little bit. And they're much more open to that. The younger breeders than their prior generations are just much more open to that. But again, it also takes a very understanding way to speak with them. I don't have any authority over anybody except myself, really. I don't have legal authority over what they do. I don't have authority within the industry or anything. I'm just some nurse, some rescue lady who said, hey, we can do this way. And I had to learn early on myself. We were the first 2 years, whoever was with me was always had a camera on him inside, either in a hat or in a button, because I didn't know how do you help fix this? What do you do? And, you learn this is a really long-standing problem. This isn't going to go away overnight. So in the beginning, I thought, well, I got to show people this is real. Here's footage. We just did this. Here's the dogs. This is how they were living. But I realized very quickly, am I going to still be able to do this work if I just call out all these people and call out what they're doing? And there's going to be an end to this. There's going to be a time when nobody's going to want to work with me anymore. And really what I want, just because of the way I'm built myself, is to rescue these animals, get them out of these situations. Yeah, the legislation, all those things that let the big groups, HSUS, the ones that have the money and the clout in the background, that can actually put something on a ballot. I can't do that. They can. You deal with that. We certainly support all legislation that changes and makes things better. We just have to be a little bit less forward about it because I'm working with these people every day of my life.
Right.
And the other interesting thing is we're working with state agencies more too, who now understand the way we did things doesn't make their state look bad, doesn't make it's us all trying to be together and work together to make this better. And that requires that we all get along and we all understand each other. So
I really think it's important for society to understand that so many of these puppy mills are in agricultural areas, and it's a supplement for the farms, and it goes back to our whole farming policy in terms of, we have these big corporate farms, the family farm, the old McDonald's farm is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't hardly exist across America anymore, which is really sad. And so a lot of these people are struggling, and so they turn to raising puppies to make money, and once again, like you say, that's their way of life. They've raised pigs, they've raised cows, they grow corn, soybeans, whatever. It's just a supplemental income to them, and that's the way they look at these animals. And it's not that they're bad people, because they're not. It's just the way they were brought up. It's a different perspective. Yeah. But as our society changes, I think more progressive, more nicer, in a nicer way, that we try to kind of damp down some of these things and some of these ideas that are very old, and they really do look at animals from just a use standpoint and not necessarily a companionship standpoint.
I think we lost her for a second.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know what happened. Now, Andy, you're frozen on my screen.
It lags, it buffers.
Yeah, no, and I don't care how it looks, as long as we get the words out. But I just wanted you to know.
Andy can make me look good, so don't worry about it.
Jeff, you do look particularly handsome today. Did you wash your hair or blow it out? Like, what'd you do?
Okay. I was at a drag show till 1 o'clock in the morning. I come home. I have to get up at 6 o'clock to go pick up a veterinarian at the airport, which is an hour and a half drive. Then I came back and did this. So I'm ready to go home and go to bed. And I got 10
no doubt,
kids
no doubt
in town. So I got to be in there at 6:30. So I just want to go and take a nap before I go to dinner tonight.
You deserve a nap.
I'm getting too old for this. I'm 70 years old with stage 4 lung cancer. Okay,
dude, I don't love hearing that. Let me tell you.
I don't either.
I do not. Are you on treatment?
I'm doing
still,
well. I got
a
CT coming up, but it's they won't say remission. It's going to kill me, but it's stable. And I'll be honest, the way medicine is, 2 years from now, it's light years away. And it's come up. So I plan on being around harassing people for at least another 10 years.
I hope
All right.
so.
We'll put up with you.
Don't say that, Jeff. It's making me feel emotional.
Once again, it's about suffering, buddy. We all die, and I can accept death. It's the suffering I don't like, So, and with animals, I really feel that way.
No joke.
The
true.
death I can accept. A lot of it's useless, but in the end, it's the suffering that we need to correct.
Jeff, you're making me cry on the podcast.
Well, those words are powerful. It is that. I've never heard it exactly, those words like that, but that's very powerful. Suffering is far worse than death. It is. At any stage of life, really. And certainly when we're the ones who can help control that, we should.
It's small things. You're not going to lose that much money if it raises the price, a little bit. And once again, you can make small changes and still be a breeder. Not that I'd ever want to be a breeder, but you don't have to treat your animals the way they treat them many times. It is like you say that you have the one lady that has a place for the mom to get away from. It can be done in a kind of gentler way, and hopefully people recognize that. And if we demand that as a society, we'll get it. That's the point. If we put some more pressure and change some of these laws, it will happen.
And we certainly have the people who care. A lot of them just don't even know. They don't understand the magnitude of suffering, what it really means when you spend $3,000, $4,000 on a puppy in a pet store. Those things. And the pet store thing is one small piece of this. Quite frankly, the internet is a far bigger issue nowadays. We have the pet store bans and things, but to be honest, the internet has always been a bigger issue.
Craigslist scares me a hell of a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
I would say if you have to meet someone at a Walmart to pick up an animal, don't. That's the bottom line. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. That's just unethical right there.
So, Theresa, how do people find you? They just reach out to you and they're asking you to come get a dog that doesn't reproduce anymore or is too sick to breed? Or
well, it's been 19 years. So in those first years, the first 2 years maybe, before I had a very clear understanding that the way forward is to build relationships with these people rather than to try to squash them, because there's a lot of them, and that just isn't really my nature anyway. But so the first year and a half, we're getting all this footage. No one has ever even seen this footage, okay? Because once I understood the best way forward is to work with these people. And that's how I'm going to maximize how many animals I can save. That's how I'm going to maximize how many people I can teach some silly little thing too that might improve a dog's life while they're living in that space. And it just best suits who I am as a person. I don't want to go punching at people and being like that. I don't mean punching, right? But
I do that well.
I'll leave that to you. I don't like to beat people down. It's not I'm far better. And again, that's just the way I'm put together. I'm far better capable to try to be diplomatic and understand one another than get it right into some sort of argument. So, no, that wasn't easy. And yeah, there are some people that I could literally, oh, what was that when I back up the rescue truck? I don't know, let's go. But not many. In the 2,000-3,000 breeders I've worked with over all these years, very few actually fall into that category. Because as you begin to see, it's not like they're all living over here in some mansion and the dogs are over here in some hellhole. Everyone lives the same. We're over here in a single wide trailer with garbage bags taped up for our windows, and the dogs are over here in a similar shithole because this is just the way it is here. And those dogs are their only way to put food on that table in that single wide falling down trailer. That's also a big reality for a lot of these people.
Well, wouldn't it make more sense to take care of them if that's your cash cow?
It would, but there's also poverty. There's also undereducated. There's so many. It's super duper rural. There's nothing else going on. And it's not everyone is like that, but a lot of them are. And that's a lot of the people who produce pets for America are living like that, like no better than their dogs do. And it's just a way to get by, and I don't know. I'm working with some big foundations and different people that are, we're really trying to say, all right, what makes this better? There's a program that was put together by a professor at Purdue University called the CCC, the Canine Care Certification Program. And this is just somebody who finally took a stab at making a breeding standard that we can all agree is not unethical towards the dogs. And that is much less looking the way it does right now. And so now they took them 8 years to build that program, and now they're pushing that out. And I have breeders that I've been working with for years calling me. They're scared. What is this? What do we do? Are we supposed to do this? Is this, and they're asking me this. And I say, you know what? If you can afford to do it, yeah, do it. It's better for your dogs. But, you got to make 3 times the amount of space. They have to have certain amounts of vet care that these people, that this is just not possible. So what we're doing in the state of Missouri, and this is very, very infant steps. I just found out the other day it's infant steps because when I was speaking with the state veterinarian, they have a program like that in the state of Missouri. It's been there as long as I've been doing this. But it's called the Blue Ribbon Kennel Program, but very, very few breeders take up the torch to be a Blue Ribbon Kennel because it's not that clear what it is, and it doesn't, Am I going to make more money per puppy? Is everybody going to like me better? Am I going to feel better about myself?
Right.
What are the perks? So what I realized, that program's been sitting there a really, really long time, untapped. And now that we have a facility in Missouri, and we are licensed in Missouri, and we see the agricultural people and the state veterinarian and all the breeders, and everybody comes and goes from there, I feel the beginning of, I don't know, the beginning of all of us coming together better, to where we can work better together. Do you need the CCC program, or can you just revive your own program within your state and start pushing that out here right in our backyard? We're going to be part of helping. That's it. All we want to do is help. We are not there to demean anybody. There are plenty of people who deserve it, right? But those are the animals who need us the most, right? So we just shut your mouth, get the animals, cry, yell, scream, do whatever. If there is something illegal, we will report that. If there is a chronic, untreated, painful condition, and we found it because this dog is so matted, somebody hasn't seen its body in, a year or two, and we find that, yes, I'm going to report that.
Talk a little bit. I mean, I've worked with a lot of your animals that have come through your doors, and invariably, matted, scars, skin conditions, horrible teeth. I mean, these animals, by the time you get them, can oftentimes be in really bad shape, which creates tremendous vet bills
in really
for you.
hard shape. Huge vet bills. We are extremely fortunate, as you well know, Dr. Jeff, that we have a beautiful facility here where we do a lot of our care here in Peyton. The conditions the things that happen to these dogs, this case we did in June last year here in Colorado, 164 schnauzers. When we saw those animals, it was, again, you just look at the human in that and just wonder, how on God's green earth do you sleep at night? How do you look at this and not feel something? These animals were so deeply suffering, it was unreal. I'll send you a video of the night we brought them in. And we had a full kennel, and the State Bureau of Animal Protection contacted Sarah, who's now our ED, by the way. I just turned that torch over. It's like, let's have this given to somebody who actually knows what to do with this. But anyway, I know what to do on the ground, but she knows what to do in the office and everywhere else. She's amazing. But they called her to say, we have this situation. We had a full kennel. We had just come in the night before. We already probably like 80 dogs. We had just come in the night before with 45. And they call with this. And Sarah says, what? This is why Sarah's the new ED, by the way. Sarah says, yes, we can help. And we had to make a whole, but I swear, when we went down there the next day to get these animals, I've never seen anything so horrifying in my life, ever. I've seen a lot of matted dogs, and you've seen them with us, Dr. Jeff. And but this was the mass of it. And each one after, their faces were matted shut, their bodies were matted, their legs were matted to themselves. It was, when I send you this video, Andy,
I don't want to watch it.
It's just, just know that the thing is, it teaches people, like, yes, this does happen. And it is completely wrong and unfair.
The American society, I mean, if you do polls, are overwhelmingly against these kind of things. The problem is we're also ignorant, and you're going to butt up against the USDA, because once again, these are more considered like farm animals in these conditions, and it's a person's right to make money. But, we definitely can do something about the conditions they're in. We may not be able to stop breeding in general, but and I hold AKC responsible for a lot of this, because to basically register an animal AKC, you just write down the time and day, so-and-so bred with so-and-so. Well, half the time they don't even know. I mean, I saw a 40-pound Pomeranian once that was 3 months old. Like, okay, and AKC papers, the lady bought it at a pet store. Said, there's no Pomeranian that weighs 40 pounds at 3 months, But there's the paper right there. It's AKC register. So I have some real problems, with that. I mean, at some point, the AKC has to step in and say, look, you have to meet a certain criteria, and, it's about breed standards. I'm all for purebreds. I don't have necessarily a problem with purebred animals. I really like Goldens and Labs. What can I say? But, it can be hard to find reputable breeders, in all honesty.
Yeah.
What are the most common medical issues that you face when you get these dogs? And then what is their behavior like? You have to rehabilitate these dogs?
Right. Great questions. Oh yeah. So obviously, I'll start with medical. So the very, very common things we see. If a breeder ever gives us a baby puppy, it's because there's something wrong with it. It has a heart murmur, it has loose kneecaps, and they tell us that. They don't, it's not some, they know because they're giving us a baby dog that we know there's something wrong with it. So they just tell us what it is, and we take those. In the adults, the very, very first most common thing is, I mean, a mouthful of the most rotten teeth you've ever seen in your life, which is causing what, Jeff?
All
A
kinds
whole
of
bunch of
problems.
other health problems.
Kidney, liver,
So we do, all of that. Heart valves and it's horrible stuff. So, I mean, I'm telling you, and when we're in a truck and we have 50, 60, 80 dogs in the truck, and, mill dogs have a certain smell to them, and just from years of being in those buildings, and, even if they're in a cleaner place, they just all have a smell to them. But if we come from some horrible place and everybody's mad and everybody's got urine soaked whatever all over them and poop balls and all the things, but they're also old, what can I smell in that truck ahead of everything else by a lot? And it's those rotten mouths. And it kills me. I will literally sit shotgun in the front seat like, oh my God, these poor animals. That sometimes I'll just see pus just dripping down. We'll pull these teeth, and up inside in the hole where the tooth was, there's dirt and straw and
hair,
filth and hair. Yeah, we do full mouth extractions on little dogs all the time. Every tooth has to go. Not because we like doing that, but because for their health and they're sick. All these teeth are dead and rotten.
It's better to have no teeth than bad
that's
teeth.
That's the number one. Yeah.
Always.
Oh, absolutely. And I always tell people, especially if it's a super shy or snarky dog, well, that's an adoption perk. If he bites you, just going to be a gum. But also, you just kind of have to say, look, they are so much healthier. Yeah, it sucks. Yep. We get so many dogs where the tongue's hanging down out of here because there's no teeth to hold it in. But we just tell people that's their puppy mill story. That's what happened. And that's why the tongue hangs out. It's always a way you can start teaching people that ask, what's the matter with your dog? So the teeth are always a really, really big deal. Beyond that, we see a lot of mammary tumors in the females that have bred for years and, and never got spayed. And in the hormonal, you probably can speak better to that, but we see a lot of mammary tumors, sometimes with metastasis, most of the time without. So once you spay them, they're usually estrogen fed. So once you spay the dog and take the tumor off, usually you're going to have, at least a few more years of a healthy dog. And then hernias, a lot of hernias on the girls because, we really degraded your abdominal wall by making you little tiny dog this big have a lot of litters. And now you're popping hernias. So we see a lot of that.
It's a nightmare to spay some of those animals because they've been C-sectioned so many times. Try to go, dogs had 3 or 4 C-sections and spay it. I'll talk about scar tissue and a nightmare. And in the work we've done now down there with them, I'll just say the dental part oftentimes the easiest because the teeth just pull right out because they're so not like you're saving a lot of them.
That's true. It's true. And so anyway, so the medical side of things is robust. We see a lot of different medical problems. Let me speak to the behavioral thing because I forgot. That was a very good question on the behavioral that you had asked me before.
Okay, yeah.
So just super quick on the behavioral stuff. So we see all that medical stuff we talked about and lots of weird things that nobody's ever seen before and really resistant parasites and things like that. That's all medical, and that is difficult. It's challenging to take care of them medically. Behaviorally is just as challenging obviously in a completely different way. Animals that have lived their whole entire lives away from humans in little cages with one another, when you go in a puppy mill building and, there's all these dogs and they're all jumping around and they all look so excited to see you. Open the door. Bye!
Stand in the back of the corner. Leaning against the cage.
So they truly are excited. They know that this is something different, and the monotony is gone for a minute because these humans are here. But don't touch me. That I don't know about. So we get a lot of dogs like that, where hands-on is just something they've never had. And when you pick them up, like sometimes when we're doing a live offload, when we come back with dogs, we always do a live offload of, here we are coming with our dogs. And sometimes you'll see dogs going like this. They're swimming. And people think it's so cute and whatever. And, it is cute looking or whatever, but it's not cute. Why they're doing that? They're doing that because they have never been picked up and held off the ground, and it's like, what is going on? And they're just doing like what they do when you stick them over water. So anyway, so that's one way that they're afraid, like, everything's weird, I don't know, and they didn't do. Then you also have the ones that are afraid enough to say, I'm gonna bite your face off. You get plenty of those. I'm that
Do
afraid.
they not like humans? Are they resentful of humans? Or are they just unfamiliar?
Unfamiliar. And then what follows right on the heels of unfamiliar is massive forgiveness and resilience. That's what they have. That's who these dogs are. These dogs, I'm not kidding. I mean, oftentimes one of our volunteers or staff or somebody will find a dog on the road and bring it to the kennel. And, if we don't find its owner, eventually it'll wind up on an intake where we're doing heartworm tests and flea and tick and just doing what we do for all of the rest of our dogs. Invariably, 100% of the time, that found on the street dog is the one that is screaming, jump. Meanwhile, I do the blood work I do the heartworm tests on the little guys. Little tiny dogs, just, I don't know, 6 pounds like this. I have to hold their leg out. And they're just like, okay. And they just stand there. They don't. If they're super scared, we have to put a towel. But what's scaring them is not the needle coming.
No.
These dogs are so mentally tough, it's not even funny. But that one that was on the street, who's somebody's pet that's just missing right now, that one is going to be screaming on the table and jumping off and biting people and getting, because these dogs are extremely stoic. They live through things that I can't tell you how many times. We had one not too long ago, a beagle, come out of this place that, the people are living the same way the dogs, but it's just the whole thing is just, oh my God, how is this even? How are these dogs alive? How are these people alive? Whatever. So we cleaned the whole place out, 50 some dogs. And one of them is a little beagle, 10 years old. Her blood sugar was 700 plus. Wow. Okay. So diabetes, she's probably had this for you. And you're saying to yourself, how on earth is she not blind, dead, all of these things when there's been no care whatsoever and this dog has raging diabetes? You know what happens when we try to correct that real quickly? We kill them. They are in some compensatory, their bodies get into this kind of nothing changes. And so, I'm sick, but nothing changes. So we're just nothing. As soon as we pull them out of there and things start to change, i.e. we start to see what's wrong with them and try to correct it. In many cases, we will kill those dogs. It's not common because I know I've learned a long time ago, don't. Whatever you think you're going to do today, do it at 1/20th the rate, or we're going to kill the dog.
It's all stress related.
And they get in this kind of homeostatic weird place where when things never change and they're just in some cage and there's always food and water and these unbelievable sicknesses that just fester that way.
I hate to say it, they're good at suffering. And we're very ignorant as humans. And it's not, when I got out of school, someone would bring an animal to me that would just, like literally fell off a cliff, I mean, it just have all these problems. And I used to get mad at him a little bit. I mean, I try to be nice, but it'd be like in the back of my mind, I just wanted to punch him. And I realized in the end, dogs and cats hide incredible things, and they really do walk a tightrope, and they'll maintain what makes that dog, and that cat. They will maintain that to the bitter end because there's no incentive in nature to show any kind of weakness. And so a lot of times people truly don't know. I mean, I had $1 for every time I heard someone say, my golden or my lab was running, fetching ball 2 weeks ago, and now I can't even walk, and I was like, how's that possible? It's very possible. That's how resilient these animals are, but they turn it internal. And for us as humans, if you're not really paying attention to them, really not tuned into your animal, you can miss a lot of stuff. It's real simple. It really is.
That's a really powerful and grips you a little bit. But to say they are very good at suffering, they are. They do not show us what humans would be screaming way like eons ahead. We would be falling all over everywhere. But they just don't do that. And when people say, and that's funny because this directly correlates to that, what I could say I've learned probably more than anything through this whole entire journey about dogs. It's really what I've learned is much, much more about people. But what I've learned about dogs is just those words. They are the toughest. no matter what, we anthropomorphize them to some
Sure.
degree because they're in our bed and we love them so much and we don't ever want anything to be bad. But the truth is they are so ungodly tough.
Absolutely.
That is what I've learned. That is what I've learned more, how tough they
Absolutely.
are. Their bodies, their emotional and physical toughness. So anyway, back to the emotional thing we see is, we see some that come out and some of it is breed specific too.
Sure.
If it wasn't a horrible place, every Shih Tzu's tail is going to be flying like this unless they were being smashed in the face. And you know what I mean? No matter what, they can't help it. It's just the way they do. Woo, everything's fine. And so it does depend on some of it. We see certain breeds, like they come out, it's a real crappy place, but, all right, woohoo, I'm ready to move on. Other ones from that same place are going to be literally crushed down in the corner. And American Eskimos, extremely, must be one of the most sensitive dogs on earth because, man, Italian Greyhounds, our founding dog, boy, can they get screwed, and then there's other breeds, pugs. Yeah, that sucked. I'm ready to move on. Just different. I don't know whether it's intellect of the breeds or just the general nature of the breeds.
But in all fairness, pugs only have one or two brain
that.
cells firing at any given time. So,
So they don't all go
Exactly.
at once. You don't want to do that. But anyway, so we see that specific in certain breeds too. But the behavior, so then we have a very robust behavior team who has to deal with these dogs that come to us with really fractious behavior. And they are downright amazing. We have never, not one time have we ever determined that a dog is biting us out of fear and euthanized it. Ever. We know how to fix those dogs. It just takes people who have the skill set, the patience, and time. And what traditional shelters don't have a lot of because they can't control their intake is time, right? So we give them that time. And I'm very proud to say that we,
but you work with the behavior. And that's one of my big things with unfortunately in America, most shelters do not have a behaviorist or trainer on staff. And you really, and they don't have to be even a professional. You can learn this stuff. It's not rocket science, and but if you're a shelter out there and you don't have someone training and doing behavioral stuff on your animals, you're not doing your job right because
you're not doing it all the way around.
Exactly.
There's so much they all need when they're housed, particularly our dogs have always been housed in tight confines, staring at a million other dogs and whatever, but they need a lot of enrichment, in that environment, and they just don't get it, So, but we give it back, and I say one of the hardest things to fix, it's like that, those first 6 months of that dog's life, this is the time, and they have to see and know and get, and when they don't, we got to put that all back, and we've learned how to do that. It's just a process. It's slow. Every dog is a little bit different. And not every single dog is like that. Some of them come off the truck and they're just, I'm ready to go home to, even if it was a crappy place. It's just, they're all different. They're all individuals. We see common threads, but they're very, very amazing at healing.
Well, for anybody that is a backyard breeder or works at a puppy mill, what are like 3 simple tips that you could give them as far as enrichment or medically? What advice can you give them?
First and foremost, because we see the end result of this all the time, keep up on the parasite control, the heartworm prevention. We have right now, we're treating, you would love this, Jeff. It's so hard right now at our place. We have one whole area, it's our rehab center for the behavior dogs. We had to clear them all out because we took some lady wound up on a ventilator, some breeder I've never worked with down in Arkansas. So I had no idea about her dogs, but we got the call, like there's 50 some dogs there. And there's like, they just got to get out of here. Okay. All right. So we go get them. We split them with another group. 24 of the 32 or whatever we took are heartworm positive. And they're like, these are 3 and 4-year-old dogs. We had to say goodbye to one of them. I swear to God, if you saw this dog's heart, well, you've probably seen this kind of thing, but it just looks like it's just packed with angel hair pasta.
Yeah.
That's the worms in there. Then we had echoes on all of them because if the worms are in their pulmonary artery rather than the heart, they have a little better chance to. Then we did the extract through the jugular vein on one of them. Wow. And he died. Yeah. We did that at CSU many years ago. One lived and one died. Yeah. We did it on this little guy because we knew if we give him one anything of imidacide, he's going to be dead
kill him, yeah.
because it's just packed. So we did the manual removal where they go into the jugular and have a special tool, and they literally manually pull the freaking worms out. He died.
It's a very high death rate.
I mean, we were probably,
Yeah.
that is a very, very, that's when you're just like, we're going to try every single last possible thing, because this poor little guy was just so sweet, adorable little Pomeranian this big. And we tried, and he stayed with our vet for 2 weeks post-op, but like on the 15th night, he just died. So, but anyway, yeah, we just deal with so many different things. What would I say to them? Please keep up on every single one of your parasite controls. Because why? The frustration of us looking at these poor animals right now that are literally suffering through treatment and dying, some of them, is 100%
Preventable.
cheaply
Preventable.
preventable.
Yeah.
This just gets my soul. I'm not kidding. This is totally unnecessary. And unnecessary suffering and death is just really bothers me. So, parasite control, enrichment. Do you really think that your dog in that cage with 2 other dogs every day of its life running in the same pattern and what is enriching? Put some shit in their kennel. It doesn't have to be stuff they're going to tear up, right? Or whatever, eat. Now you have a vet bill. There's all kinds of things you can go online, look up enrichment toy. This is a big thing nowadays. Every breeder should be doing that. They should have things to chew on.
Yeah.
Their teeth are rotten at 4 and 5 years old because all they've ever done is eat off of food that's always in front of them and lick off of a bottle that you never really get a good, it's like a rabbit bottle, so there's never a good flushing of the mouth or anything like that. Enrichment is huge. The biggest one, touch your dogs gently and regularly, which means every day or two, or hire someone to touch your dogs when they are untouched. It's just a rehab project for us that goes on and on and on. And we will not euthanize those dogs because we know they're going to heal. But God almighty, this dog could have been home in 5 minutes. Instead, it's living at our shelter for another 8 months or a year because it's having to learn everything in teeny tiny baby steps. Just stick your hand in the cage and go like this. Rubby, rubby, something, anything, something that's not mean, right? Because the touching they get is when they're breeding. Oh, this female's ready to pop. Grab her by one leg, throw her in the whelping cage. Oh, this boy, we want to use him for this one, that one, and the other one. Throw him in here, throw him in here. And there's never any, it's just always stress, and there's never any calm, quiet, gentle touching. Touch your fucking dogs.
Socialization is by far the most important thing. And
critical.
Yeah, it really is.
Critical. Why do you even have these creatures if you're not willing to do that piece, which is the most important thing for them?
Yeah.
From the beginning.
It's important for people to understand that dogs have. It's important for people to know dogs have like imprint periods and things, and it happens very early in life. So you really need to handle them a little bit, and that's why so many of these animals, once they hit like 6 or 8 months, and nothing's happened to them, they're ready to get rid of them because they can't really sell them, very well. So a lot of times,
And I tell breeders all the time, if you don't sell them by their 12 to 16 weeks, you are not going to sell them. And if all you really want is $50 for them, then you really shouldn't be doing this job because you're going to give your $50 purebred dog to somebody who's going to turn around and do God knows what to it. So basically, if they're not gone by 4 or 5 months, that's when you need to be calling me, not when they're 10 months. At past 5 months, we've learned that's about that stage. When they get past 5 months, now you're going to be biting. You haven't had any hands on, and this is a year-long rehab project. So touch your dogs gently and regularly.
What about their teeth? Does that stuff that you put in their water, does that actually do anything? Is there anything cheap and affordable they can do to help their teeth?
The first biggest problem is that most of them work on a watering system that is rabbit bottles. It's one copper pipe that runs through the building, and in each cage drops down it's called a liquid system, but it's essentially a rabbit bottle. So you can't, I suppose you could maybe add to the water. That just comes off of some, water feed line, but they never have enough. It's a rabbit bottle. A dog can't really lap and lick. It's just enough. In fact, oftentimes when we come out of places where everybody's on a liquid system, the first 3 or 4 days at our place, we may have to teach them how to drink out of a water dish. They've never done that.
Horrible.
And you can smell. Oh, yep, they just got back from rescue. The whole place smells like highly concentrated pee, even though we keep a very clean place. it's almost coming off of their bodies, so yeah. Sorry.
Would it be that much effort to put water bowls in there?
Well, yeah, because you got to clean them, and well,
You have
or
to
you got
take
to
them
kill
out. You
'em.
have to wash
Yeah.
them. Yeah, and remember, these people don't have 5 dogs. They have maybe 300
Yeah.
dogs. You're going to use 300 feeding bowls, and we got to wash these every day. And so the way they're fed on the front side of a traditional puppy mill cage, those buildings are called sundowners. There's a red box feeder. It's about 1 foot tall and about 8 inches wide, and it's strapped to the cage. And at the bottom of it, a little bit of it, little tray about yay big, goes into the cage, and there's just at the beginning of the week you fill the P52s, and they're fed for the week. So they have food and water in front of them all the time. It's just not in a normal way. The water's not in a bowl. The food's just there. A lot of them have really weird behavior around food. When you bring them home, they kick all the food out of their tray. They pee on it and then eat it. They do really weird things that they develop these weird behaviors when they're living in a tiny little space like that.
I ran a dog daycare, like a boarding facility, for 7 years, and I would deal with like 50 to 100 dogs a day. And I guess I just like, I don't know. I gave every dog an individual water bowl and washed it and cleaned it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me that this is your livelihood and this is how you make money, but yet you don't want to do anything to make sure that your inventory is in
It's
good.
about
The best cared.
It's
Yeah.
about money, I mean, once again, even putting something in the water that would help the teeth costs money, and there's not a lot of money in breeding. In all honesty, really good breeders make some decent money because they really breed very high-end dogs. But for the most part, you're not getting rich. You're
getting by. It's a Walmart
and
job.
backyard breeders rarely make any money at all when it comes right down to it. You have one thing that needs a C-section, you just lost all your profit. And people don't think about things like that. Backyard breeders in particular, and the big breeders just have to have so many animals. That way, it's drops the price. But they don't look at them as individuals. It's herd mentality. That's what it is.
Yeah. And I see more of this, and this is part of that CCC program where you're not allowed to have more than 35 dogs, breeding dogs, a certain number of females and a handful of males. But that I keep trying to tell people, the people that I believe can understand what I'm saying. I say, look, you don't need 200 dogs, okay? You need 30 dogs that you can actually take care of. But you have to eliminate all these morons in the middle that are taking the money. The broker, the pet store. Actually sell to the public. Actually know who you're selling your babies to. Actually be able to take care of them, because there's not 200 of them. There's 30, right? You can make just as much money doing that. So here's the way it currently works. Every Monday and a half day Tuesday, the big broker companies and the little ones, and there's all kinds of shitty ones that people don't even know are licensed, probably not even licensed, run around to all the mills they have their contracts with, and they choose their puppies. So, all right, we're going to take 3 from this litter, and these 4 from this litter, whatever, and then they go back whenever those puppies are 8 weeks, and on Mondays and Tuesdays, they pick the dogs and pick them up. On Thursdays, they bring them back to a central facility where they're processed and, whatever their process is. And then they truck them out to pet stores on Thursday and Friday. All those people. So let's just say puppy sales, like everything else, the price goes up and down and whatever. So let's say this week, just for argument's sake, make it easy. Every poodle puppy you have, we're going to give you $200 for. Every Yorkie is going to be $500 that we pick, by the way, which isn't always every puppy. But the Yorkie's $500, the English Bulldog, you're going to get $600 for that. And then this little whatever random rat terrier, you get $50. And this is how it all works. And then we wrap it all up, and then here's all your money for all your puppies, and here you go. They turn around. They just gave a breeder $200 for a poodle. They turn around and sell it to some pet store for $1,800, and then the pet store sells it to the public for $4,000 or $5,000. The person who put the puppy on the planet, in many cases, had to be up with the mom. They can't just free whelp all these little dogs.
Yeah.
They have to be up taking care. Hopefully you did your dewormings and your vaccines on schedule and whatever. You're getting $200 for all that, and have these babies for 8 weeks, and these people are getting 10 times that. Are you stupid?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need to do it. If you just sold to but a lot of them, I don't want to say are stupid, but a lot of them are ignorant. They're afraid to deal with people like us. They don't know how to use, all the modern things, and it just stresses them. And this is just easy because it's always been this way. But this is why it's so shitty, right? So our presence on the ground in Missouri, the fact that we have a facility there now, the fact that we're speaking and with much more with the state authorities and stuff, and more breeders, I really feel like we are going to have a chance to kind of help. It's just going to take a long time because people don't understand things just like that. So,
Well, how can people support you?
On our website, there's all the different ways you can donate, volunteer, adopt. I view our adopters as big a part of our mission as everybody who makes it happen every day, because if we didn't have people willing to take these dogs, some of whom are, not normal dogs, right? They are going to have these little quirks forever, or, different medical things forever. They're a huge part of this. So adopting our dogs is huge to me. Obviously, financial support is always big. There's many, many different ways you can volunteer and teach people. Teach people, where do these dogs come from? It's not just nowhere. And it's not just some nice lady down the street like the pet store is going to tell you. Find out. Look at the paperwork. It's there. You can see where they come from. Find out. People want what's easiest. That's kind of the way things operate. Just whatever's the easiest way. And I want to get a puppy, I'm going to go do this, even though I know I shouldn't. Don't.
Yeah.
Please don't.
Educate yourself.
It feeds
Educate
the problem.
yourself. Yeah.
It just feeds the problem. And it's just so, if they saw what we see all the time, they would never want to do this.
Yeah.
That's the other part. The blinders are always really great. They work really well for people.
It's
the
a very
blinders,
human thing.
It is, because we know who wants to expose ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to expose yourself to things that make you feel sad, but at the same time, you can expose yourself to things you can change. That's what this was for me. It was like, all right, we got to change this. And so we got to start somewhere. So
I think I hate doing this podcast. Every time I do an episode, I am like just informed of more and more horrors that I was not aware of.
But Andy, you got to look at it from the perspective, once again, in the 89, 90, we were killing 24 million dogs and cats a year for no other reason than being born, and no matter who you look at, we're way down to maybe 4 to 6 or 2 to 4.
Yeah.
So society's changed, dolphin-free tuna, save the whales, save the elephants, save the polar bears. I mean, the environmental movement, and it's not all foo-foo stuff. It's really practical, common sense, down-to-earth type stuff that benefits us as human beings and benefits the world. And I do think, there's only one way society proceeds, and that's forward. It's progressive, and obviously we can take a few steps back every now and then.
Every now and then, maybe 5,000 steps back.
But in the end, we always go forward, and I really do. As a species, I think that's true. There's more knowledge out there at the tip of our fingers. On the internet than there ever has been in the whole world. Now, granted, most of the time we talk to friends and argue over cat videos or something with cat videos, but the whole history of mankind and of everything is right there in front of you.
Right there.
Yeah. You can educate yourself on anything. It's just not that hard. And I do think as a species, we're only going to go progress forward with time.
Yeah. Agreed. And we need to get that on the gas pedal right this minute.
Absolutely. Some things absolutely.
Full force gas pedal, boys. Let's go.
Theresa, thank you very much.
I'm glad
you're
to see
the best.
Andy, thank you so much, and thank you for, and still every effing time a rerun that we were on goes on, here we come again with the people. It's so good. Thank you for those opportunities. Also,
I always enjoy my time working with you. You got a great crew down there, an incredible facility. And I certainly encourage people to go visit and to donate. God knows you're doing wonderful work.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Good to meet you too, Andy. Really good to meet you. Fucker.
Come see you soon. Yeah, fucker. Maybe I'll come see you this month if Jeff surprise opens the cattery.
Anytime. Say the word.
All
Say the
right.
word.
I'll
All right,
text
guys.
you.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Take
Thanks.
care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Andy.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're following the podcast so you don't miss what's coming next. We post new episodes every Monday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, 12 p.m. Central. So we'll catch you back here next week. We'll see you next time.